Special meeting will now be in order. Special town meeting, that is. I'm Carmen Reese, 52 Devon Street, Town Moderator. I see that there's a sufficient number of voters present to permit us to open the meeting, and I do so declare. The meeting is called pursuant to a warrant signed by the Select Board on November 12, 2021. I have inspected the return of service on the warrant and found it to be in order. We're very grateful to Superintendent Hunter, Principal Mastrullo, the Regional School Committee, and the faculty, students, and staff of the high school for accommodating us here this evening, assisting us with preparation for the meeting, and bearing with the disruption that we cause. This evening, the venue for the meeting includes the gymnasium, the auditorium, the cafeteria, and the designated area of the parking lot, where voters will participate from their cars. Voting will take place in all 4 of these areas. We're using 3 areas inside the building in order to provide space for people to physically distance themselves from others, so please do. Masks are required in all locations inside the building. Ms. Carolyn Flood of 1289 Main Street, who was elected by 2021 annual town meeting to serve as the deputy moderator, will be serving in that capacity this evening. In addition, I have appointed Mr. Michael Lawson of 1695 Lowell Road and Alice Kaufman of 1615 Lowell Road as assistant moderators. I am presiding in the gymnasium, Deputy Moderator Flood in the auditorium, Assistant Moderator Lawson in the cafeteria, and Assistant Moderator Kaufman in the parking lot. Voters in all 4 areas are able to hear and observe the proceedings. In the parking lot, voters are listening on the high school radio station, WIQH 83.3 FM, or watching live stream on minuteman.media/government. All 4 areas have microphones available for voters who wish to address the meeting. The microphone for the parking lot is immediately outside the cafeteria under the tent. The meeting also is being broadcast live on our local cable access channel, the Minuteman Media Network, and the Minuteman Media Network website. The minutes of the meeting will be kept by Town Clerk Kari Tari, who is sitting here on my left. And I would now like to invite Fire Chief Tom Judge to come to the podium to tell us what we need to know in the unlikely event of an emergency this evening.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'd just like to remind everybody in the auditorium and the gymnasium that there are exits in all 4 corners of the room. In the cafeteria, the glass wall on the BD Center side, that's where the exits are located for that room. In the event of a fire alarm or other emergency that we have to evacuate the building, please proceed to the exit closest to where you're sitting. In the gymnasium, the exit to my left, your right, on the front of the room is behind that screen. The exit sign is blocked, but the exit is available. Thank you.
I thank both Chief Judge and Chief O'Connor and both of their departments for all the support they've provided for this special town meeting. At check-in, you should have received your voting slip, which looks like this evening. Your voting slip is what identifies you as a person entitled to vote, and please do keep track of it. Among the handouts that you received, you'll find presentations on this evening's article, and you will find the motion to be made on this evening's article. In addition, out on the table, there are copies of the Finance Committee's report containing the recommendations of both FinCom and the Select Board on the single article before us this evening. I have appointed Mr. Abe Fisher of 400 Hayward Mill Road to be head teller, Mr. Jim Summer of 15 Pine Street as assistant head teller, Mr. David Carr of 82 Lawsbrook Road to be ballot supervisor, and Mr. Richard Wells of 368 Lawsbrook Road as assistant ballot counter. Mr. Fisher will be supervising vote counting on the floor and in the parking lot, And Mr. Carr will be supervising the ballot counting procedure and vote certification in the event that the meeting votes for a paper ballot on a motion. The vote in the parking lot will be counted by the tellers. The vote indoors will be counted only if the moderators are unable to ascertain the vote by visual observation of raised voting slips, or if the vote in the parking lot does not meet the 2/3 threshold for passage of Article 1. Mr. Fisher, are the tellers ready to be sworn?
We are.
Thank you. Mr. Carr? Thank you. Are the ballot counters ready to be sworn?
We are.
Tellers and ballot counters, would you please stand and raise your right hand? Oh, look at you all. Thank you. Does each of you swear that you will faithfully and impartially perform your respective duties at this special town meeting? Thank you all. A talented and dedicated team of town staff and volunteers is supporting this special town meeting tonight, led by Chris Carmody in the town manager's office. I'm not going to thank each one of you individually here, but you know who you are, and we know we couldn't do it without you. It truly does take a village. So thank you all. Our select board, our school committees, our finance committee, and the Concord Middle School Building Committee are seated in the front of the gymnasium. We owe all the volunteers on these committees, especially the Middle School Building Committee, a great debt of gratitude for their work on the proposal that we will take up this evening in Article 1. Before we begin the business of this special town meeting, let those of us inside, people in your cars are free to sit, stand and hold a moment of silence. Tonight, we are Concord's legislature. Because we are here not only as private citizens, but also as legislators, we must bear in mind as we cast our votes not only our personal interests, but also those of our community as a whole. As we deliberate, let each of us here tonight maintain an open mind, an open heart, graciousness when we disagree, and a healthy sense of humor, so that the debates of this meeting will not be a source of division among us when our business here is finished. Thank you, and please be seated. Ms. Ackerman moves. Where is Ms. Ackerman? Oh, there you are. Okay, you didn't know about this motion. But Ms. Ackerman moves that the reading of the warrant and the return of service thereon be omitted. Is there a second? Thank you. Is there any discussion? I note that we have a single article on the warrant for this special town meeting and that the motion under the article has been printed on a handout and provided to all voters at check-in. If there's anyone opposed to the motion, would you please raise your voting slip? I see no one opposed in the gymnasium. Mr. Lawson, is there opposition in the cafeteria? Ms. Flood, is there opposition in the auditorium?
I think there might have been two, but I'm not sure. I think they were just still holding it up.
Thank you. Ms. Kaufman, is there opposition in the parking lot? Okay. The motion passes by a large majority, and I do so declare. We will now proceed to Article 1, the Concord Middle School Building Project. Approval of this project requires a 2/3 vote at this evening's meeting and a majority vote at the special town election on February 3rd. That vote will be to exclude the debt for the project from calculation of the town's Proposition 2.5 cap. Could we have the motion on the screen, please? The motion is on the screen, which is Ms. Nelson moves that affirmative action be taken on Article 1 as printed in the handout. You have the handout. The amount requested for the project is $102,816,000. And I believe that Ms. Gariello would like to second the motion. Would you hold your ballot slip up for us? Thank you. We'll hear first from the Concord Middle School Building Committee. Come to the podium, thank you. And actually it will be Superintendent Hunter who will address us. And I just want to note that those of you listening on your car radios from the parking lot can follow along with the presentation in the handouts. And a word to those of you in the parking lot, we know you'll need to run your engines to stay warm, but please do turn them off and give them a rest every 5 or 10 minutes or so. Superintendent Hunter?
Great, thank you. Good evening, and I want to be sure that we start with a really extraordinary voice of gratitude to even be here tonight. It's been quite a journey under exceptionally challenging conditions, and even tonight being proof of that. So we are so very grateful for everyone involved in this project up until now. And really, it's my pleasure to be here tonight and share with you some of how we got here and what it is we're actually here to decide. So, Chris, if you can pull my slides up. So we're going to start with just a reminder. We're here talking about Concord Middle School, which right now is composed of Peabody and Sanborn. We have grade 6 at Peabody, 7 and 8 at Sanborn. These are photos from a few years ago, but I assure you nothing improves in those schools at this point. And you can see some of our needs are very clear, both in terms of capacity with modular classrooms and a failing infrastructure, slowly but surely. In 2018, the school committee commissioned a study by Feingold Alexander as a consultant, and indeed the conditions were determined to be deteriorated and obsolete, costs of significant funds to keep the buildings online, and therefore there was a facilities planning committee at the time, and the school committee jointly recommended proceeding with a new building on the Sanborn property. That led to a 2019 town meeting decision where we appropriated $1.5 million and allowed us to get started. We have since then been working on feasibility and schematic design, which we'll talk about in a moment. And at that point, that $1.5 million was very, very well supported and really let us get started. So from there, the Concord Middle School Building Committee was formed in July of 2019. The goals that we established were a focus on team teaching, which I'll talk about in a minute when you see the visuals. A highly sustainable building, that was actually an amendment in the 2019 town meeting to make sure that this was a very, very highly sustainable school, net zero ready, all electric, LEED certifiable, and be cognizant of cost. And so the numbers that we used throughout the project were 80 to 100 million. You hear tonight we're close to that, and a good portion of that is contingency because of the circumstances. This is my favorite part of the discussion, where we talk about the educational goals. A visioning group was held even prior to the 1.5 million in the beginning of the project, in which we're really focused on 8 principles within the school. You can see all woven together with everything from wellness and inclusivity and flexibility, really skills for the future that we know students need now. And my favorite among those is joy, and bringing joy to the classroom. The feasibility study then set off in January of 2020, and from that emerged, this is actually our work with the design team. We have professionals involved, both the project manager and a architecture firm. And so they start to hear what our vision is, start to look at the site, start to look at what our targets are fiscally, start to develop concepts. So we looked at 4 concepts and made our way through the pros and cons of each. We settled on number 3, as you can see, which was called the treetop teams. You'll see it's evolved since this, but that is where our focus became on this building that essentially puts together teams of kids by floor and then has common spaces on the other side. So schematic design is where we take that concept and bring it out to the next level, which is what the visuals you're going to see tonight are. It's essentially a floor plan, site planning, so we know where the building would be on the Sanborn property, and some sense of where classrooms are going to go and how the big picture structures of the school will work. A few highlights here before looking in more detail. We are aiming for a sustainability factor of a 25 EUI, which is very aggressive. I believe the current Sanborn building is up at a 59 or 60 as one of your least sustainable buildings. So we're really trying to make great progress here with what this building will provide us. So when we look at the layout, here's the site plan. It's a little hard to see with the red outline, but where the fields are that you see is actually where the current Sanborn building is. The footprint is in red. And what you see there for an overhead shot is actually the aerial view of where the new school would go. So it's actually where the fields are currently, and we would begin construction there. Eventually, upon completion and not needing Sanborn, we would move the kids over to the new school, demolish Sanborn, and replace the fields in kind in the space you see marked there. The footprint of the building is designed so that we have essentially a public wing and an academic wing. A few of the public spaces are the gym, the auditorium, the cafeteria, and the media center. And then the academic wing is a 3-story tall groups of classrooms. The team model, which became very, very important to us, is a model that allows for a smaller setting within the larger school. Our kids are already grouped on teams where they're with the same teachers, and they move across the core content areas of English, math, science, and social studies. And you can see the goal of the building in this new design would be to take what we have in place now for staffing structures and actually allow us to really optimize that and bring it to life where there's also proximity and distance reduction between the classrooms, so we are allowed more cross-curricular integration. Teachers are teaming together. You might move walls and be able to collaborate across that or with the whole team, and through that proximity really create a smaller setting for kids who then travel out to the big world of the art classrooms and the music classrooms and the gym on the other side of the building. So we're proposing 3 teams per grade with 1 floor per grade. This is a front aerial of the building and its design at the moment. You can see the trees and the fields where they related to the site plan. There's a bus loop in the front. We would be very careful to work that through with access to the building for parents and those in cars as well. The 3-story tall academic wing is to your left and the common areas are to the right. The exterior, this hones in on that a little bit more. So you can see in the middle there is the entrance to the school, and where it says Concord Middle School over on the side, that's actually where the gymnasium and auditorium will be, and all of the common spaces would be on that side. A prime goal for us, and clearly feedback we heard from the community, was making sure that the auditorium and gymnasium also met community hopes for the use of the building, and so they're easily accessible and also contained for evening and weekend use. The other side here on the left is our academic wing, so that's the 3-story tall, 1 per grade, and you can see that would then house the teams, and kids would stay on that side until they venture over to the other areas for other subjects. Among a really strong positive of the design is use of the site itself. It's a very sloped site over there at Sanborn, and the design team was really creative, hearing a very loud desire to maximize the outdoor space and really have learning ebb and flow between the indoors and the outdoors. They actually built in this amphitheater that goes along the slope between the 2 wings of the building. So that allows for a natural presentation space, or other types of learning can happen out there. That is the main entryway, and then above that you can see what we've affectionately begun to call the bridge, that it combines the 2 and connects them. And it's very open and allows for lots of natural light and really feels like it does bring that incredibly beautiful wooded site right into the school. This would be a sketch of what the lobby might look like. A large part of our goal was a lot of natural light, open spaces, really welcoming, inviting places for kids to be able to congregate. And this would be an idea of what that could look like at the main entrance. This is the team common area. So as I described, the 3 teams per grade, each team of those 4 subject areas has a common space where the kids are able to flow out into the common space, back and forth between the classrooms, work collaboratively, do presentations, do projects, and really build a fluid learning environment across all those areas while solidifying the unity of the team. The cafeteria is purposefully going to have a lot of different types of seating. It's not just going to be your traditional seating. That allows for inclusivity of students with different kinds of needs. It also really brings variety to the environment. So if you look on the very far left there, you'll see there's actually booth seating. None of this is set exactly what we're going to design to, but you can see there's a lot of options. A lot of nice wood tones throughout the school probably as well. We want to be sure we're making it as a comfortable and quiet environment at times, while it's also lively and energized. A few highlights of sustainability. We are looking, like I said, for the EUI of 25 or better, reducing embodied carbon, target 20% reduction. It will be an all-electric school. The only exception would be 1 emergency generator. It will be solar ready, which means infrastructure is there for the arrays and the canopies potentially on the parking lot that we're hoping for. We'll be looking to Concord Light to be able to do the actual work on that and partner with them as we go forward. In addition, it'll be a robust and airtight building, high efficiency air source heat pumps for heating and cooling. The orientation and where the building sits on the site is maximized for solar. The kitchen will also be all electric, which is very different and new for us. Plug load management and making sure our usage matches the goals, and that I know is also a piece of purposeful usage we're going to have to learn to really think through in our schools and how we're using the energy. And then finally, high efficiency energy recovery ventilator for ventilation. The process, and just to be sure, I think most people have seen our high level of hope for community engagement, and we have really felt that that invitation has been maximized. This is just the highlights of what all that engagement included, different types of forums. Zoom turned into a positive. We thought it was a negative initially, and it turns out Zoom allows for a lot of accessibility, and we were able to really engage the community perhaps in a way that was more convenient than it would have been otherwise. A large number of coffees and information sessions, both in person and on Zoom, and a lot of listening sessions, touring 2 different groups and committees throughout the town, and being able to be on their agendas and work with them on their particular group goals. So a few more details. I won't go through all of these. You can see it's an extensive list of meetings and public discussions, a lot of email and outbound communication, social media, distribution lists, a survey back about a year ago, and a really robust building committee website where everything is housed, and also partnerships with the local media. So we hope everyone is coming here fully informed. Obviously, we're here tonight to be sure of that if that's not the case, but that has been the intent throughout the process. Cost, of course, we need to talk on tonight. Our schematic design estimate is at $82 million for construction, as you can see. We decided to look harder at that, and we were able to go through what we call the value management process, where the design and project manager really come up with options that maybe we could go without, and we were able to continue to reduce that number down through to the $80,772,477 that you see there. Then we need to take that construction budget and then factor in soft costs, which are anything that isn't actually going to be the construction piece, and that would be $15,224,080. And then contingency's been a really interesting part of this discussion, mostly because of the pandemic and the environment it's created economically and with supply chains. So the first contingency you see there of 4.7 million is in line with typical percentages for construction contingencies. What is very different, and we're really grateful for the thoughtfulness of the committees in town and the leadership, the select board and finance committee have supported an additional 2 million in contingency for the bidding process, which will happen about a year from now, simply because of the unknowns of the pandemic and its impact. So we're really grateful for that extra thoughtfulness. If the bids come in and we don't need that 2 million, then that won't get spent. It's just simply there to ensure a successful process when the next phase of design is done and the bid actually goes out. A little bit of footnote on comparable buildings that are being constructed in Massachusetts. We are right now at $562 per square foot. We thought it was interesting to highlight a few other schools that are under construction. You can see we're in the middle ground range with a number of other middle schools, and there are certainly those higher than us around. Highlight of the logistics then. The schedule from here forward, should we be successful tonight and on February 3rd at the ballot, we then go into what's called design development, and we design at another level deep. So the footprint then becomes a design for every room in the building and every detail that needs to be put to paper so that construction can happen. So that would probably take about a year, and we'd be looking at February of '23. We're hopeful that in April of '23, if all that stays on schedule, the bids then, like the ones I was just talking about with the contingency, that's when those are out and received. And then this is where the reality really starts and the actual building starts to be constructed, likely in May of '23, with 2 full years of construction, with the hope, the goal of moving in even prior to the close of the '24-25 school year, and moving the kids over potentially during the April break. And once we're moved out, then April of '25 through November, Sanborn's demolished and months of field work and site work restoration. The next most important date after tonight is the February 3rd ballot vote for people to be able to do the second layer of approval. And that's happening at the regular polling facilities in town, wherever you normally vote. And we're just really, really, like I said, really appreciative for all the attention and support, questions. We've had incredibly great feedback that certainly adapted the design and at times modified it. There's a lot of information in the webpage if you want to peruse to another layer deep. Social media, we're pretty active and kind of fun, thanks to our social media host. And there is a building committee email available at any time. You can email the entire building committee, and you will certainly get a response to your question. So thank you. I am really appreciative of your time and attention tonight. And again, really the gratitude of all of us in the schools, and especially the children of the future of Concord, are appreciative that we're here tonight, and really look forward to partnering going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Hunter. We'll hear next from Acting Town Manager Carrie LaFleur, who will be speaking for the Finance Department and the Finance Committee about the financial implications of the project. And before Ms. LaFleur gets started, I want to remind folks who are in the cafeteria that in order to participate in the voting in the meeting, you have to be in the designated area of the cafeteria for participation in the meeting. That is in the straight rows in the center of the room between the 2 rows of tables that are facing Assistant Moderator Larson. If you're in the desks off to the side, you are not in the designated area. Thank you very much. Ms. LaFleur?
Okay. Thank you. Chris, do you have my slides? Good evening. The topics to be covered in this section of the presentation include financing a school construction project, base assumptions, a quick review of existing exempt debt, efforts to smooth the project's peak impact, cost savings assumptions, and finally, some additional information. Under Massachusetts general law, school construction projects may be financed for a term of up to 30 years following either a level debt or equal principal repayment schedule. All three of the town's elementary schools projects were financed over a term of 20 years using equal principal repayment schedules. The Alcott and Thoreau schools received partial MSBA funding, while the Willard School was funded 100% by the town residents. The Concord Carlisle Regional High School is being financed over a 25-year term following an equal principal repayment schedule with MSBA funding. Due to the cost of the Concord Middle School project, the tax impact modeling assumes a level debt repayment schedule. Because all prior CPS projects were financed over a 20-year period, the base assumption for financing for the middle school project was also 20 years, but using a level debt versus an equal principal repayment. The reason for using a level debt assumption is due to the overall cost of the project and in recognition that the existing exempt debt associated with the elementary schools will not be completely satisfied until fiscal '28. Based upon the cash flow projections provided by the town's OPM and current market conditions, the assumption is that the town will permanently finance the project cost over a period of 4 years. The current interest rate assumption for a 20-year level debt issuance is 2.5% to 3.5%. Using these assumptions, the estimated tax impact at the median assessed value is $1,020 per year. Alternate financing assumptions include financing the project over a 25-year or 30-year term. Interest rate assumptions have been adjusted to reflect the longer terms. The estimated impact at median assessed value for a 25-year term is $902 per year, and at 30 years, it's $835 per year. Because of the magnitude of this project, the recommendation is the project be financed over a 25-year period using a level debt repayment structure. While this will result in additional interest cost, it provides a more affordable solution to the taxpayer without negatively impacting the town's bond rating. Further, the town would likely have opportunities in the future to refinance the debt if there was an interest in pursuing a more aggressive repayment schedule. In order to fully understand how this project will impact your tax bill, it is important to review the tax impact of the existing capital projects. This slide shows the impact to the tax bill for existing exempt debt. Please note that for a project to be considered exempt, it must have received voter approval at the ballot to raise dollars over and above the Proposition 2.5 allowance. The existing exempt debt projects impacting your tax bill include, for the town, the Alcott, Thoreau, and Willard elementary schools, the bus depot, and the middle school feasibility study. Also, the Concord Carlisle Regional High School, and finally, the Minuteman Technical High School. As you can see from this slide, in the current year, the total tax impact of these projects is $977. Again, based on the current cash flow analysis provided by the OPM, the project debt will first appear in fiscal '23 with the full tax impact of the project in fiscal '26 or by fiscal '26. Because the existing debt associated with the elementary schools will not be fully satisfied until fiscal '28, taxpayers will bear a significant increase in their tax bill associated with the middle school project during the years fiscal '25 through '28. In anticipation of this project, town meeting established a middle school stabilization fund at the 2020 annual town meeting and transferred $2 million from free cash into the fund. In November of 2021, the Board of Assessors voted to declare $1 million of its overlay account as surplus to be transferred into the middle school stabilization fund at the upcoming annual town meeting. The Board of Assessors has also agreed to take another look at the balance in its overlay account after they've concluded the fiscal 22 abatement season. In total, it is anticipated that $5 million will be available to smooth the peak impact of the middle school project. This slide shows the smoothing impact of a $5 million stabilization fund. Goodness gracious, sorry about that. The mask is throwing me off. I'm waiting for my glasses to fog up. So again, this slide shows the smoothing impact of a $5 million stabilization fund if it were spread over a 4-year period in equal amounts. Using the stabilization fund in this manner would result in a reduction of approximately $178 per year. However, because the impact of the existing debt service, along with the rate at which the middle school project is expected to be financed, the best opportunity here comes from an unequal application of the stabilization fund. As shown on this slide, the town would not begin to use the stabilization fund. This is not the right slide either, is it? I don't know what's going on here. The town would not be able, the reduction here would be $178 per year. All right. As shown on this slide, the town would not begin to use the stabilization fund until fiscal 25, and by doing so would able to keep the total tax exempt at median assessed value fairly constant at about $1,400 during the peak years. All right, I'm on slide 8. For anyone who has been following the progress of this project, you know that there have been many cost savings measures that have been investigated or are still under investigation. One such cost savings measure would be the recapture of operational savings from the consolidation of 2 middle schools into 1 middle school. That savings has been identified as $548,000 per year, and that is anticipated to be available in fiscal 26. The value impact of this savings at median assessed value is $78. From a budget mechanics point of view, this adjustment will occur one time, reducing the CPS guideline budget by $548,000 and increasing the non-guidelines debt budget by the same amount. The net effect is that beginning in fiscal 26 and continuing throughout the life of the repayment schedule, $548,000 of the annual debt service will be paid within the levy. This table shows the overall estimated impact at median value of all exempt debt with the addition of the middle school, assuming that the middle school stabilization fund is used to smooth peak impact years during fiscal 25 through 28, and the recapture of operational savings to offset the annual debt service beginning in fiscal 26. This graph displays the same data from the previous slide. In this graph, the blue area represents the town projects, the elementary schools, the bus depot, and the middle school feasibility study. The gray represents the impact of the Minuteman Technical High School. Orange is the CCHS building project, and the impact of the middle school is shown in solid green. The green striped area depicts the smoothing as a result of the stabilization fund usage, and the green hashed portion depicts the reduction in exempt debt as a result of the operational savings. There's some additional information on this slide that was gathered from some of the frequently asked questions that have been posed at various sessions. There's information on how the project might be financed. So under state law, projects, any debt service, the conversation about that in the decision-making process is between the treasurer and the select board. There is a provision for a town meeting to set the maximum term. And we would recommend that we follow the traditional process of having the treasurer and the select board make those decisions so that it can best take advantage of interest rates. There is a question up there about how you might go about finding out the estimated impact on your tax bill. And we do have a impact calculator that is available on the website. And we would encourage you to take a look at that if you would be interested in more specific detail about how this project might impact your tax bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. LaFleur. Folks, I know that there was an awful lot of information on these slides. They were just packed, and you've all got them in your handouts, so that if you want to review any of it in a more readable format than it might have been on the screen with so much information there, you've got it in this handout, and feel free to review that. Okay. We will hear next from the Select Board. I see Ms. Ackerman rising to speak to us.
I am Terry Ackerman, 89 East Bridge Road, and Chair of the Select Board.
Ms. Ackerman.
The Select Board unanimously supports this article for the new middle school. It will be a state-of-the-art facility that supports contemporary team teaching, and the building design is well aligned with our town's sustainability goals. The middle school building committee was able to meet education and community needs while coming very close to the $100 million budget target. And the project includes prudent allocation of contingency funds given the recent construction costs and supply challenges. I really want to express our sincere thanks to the Concord Middle School Building Committee, especially the co-chairs Dawn Gariello and Pat Nelson, and our Select Board liaison Matt Johnson, our Superintendent of Schools Dr. Lori Hunter, and the entire Concord Public School Committee, our moderator Carmen Reese, and our CFO and interim town manager Kerry LaFleur. I don't think any of us really know how many countless hours of dedicated service these people have put in. And we have now gotten to the point of presenting this project to the town for a vote. We are tremendously grateful to all of you for your service.
Thank you, Ms. Ackerman. We'll hear next from the Concord Public Schools Committee. I see Mr. Booth approaching the microphone.
Madam Moderator, Court Booth, 144 Wright Road. I'm a member of the Building Committee. I'm a member of the School Committee. I'm speaking for the School Committee.
Thank you. Please proceed.
The Concord School Committee recognizes and thanks the community members and town employees who have participated in the very thorough process that brings us to town meeting to consider a new middle school. In particular, we recognize the Concord Middle School Building Committee. Thank you. The proposed project supports the contemporary middle school learning practice of team-based teaching in a truly superior way, with ample space for 9 teams of 80 students each, with core subject teachers specifically dedicated to each team. The proposed building has space to accommodate future potential student population increases. With passage tonight and approval at the ballot, the educational vision articulated by our educators, school leaders, and students will be realized, providing them with a new and well-planned space to work together and collaborate, ushering in a new era of excellence in teaching and learning. The building will also be a new resource for the town for community events, recreational activities, and musical and theatrical performances. Additionally, the school committee recognizes and applauds the building committee for being mindful of the $100 million budget guideline identified by the select board and the finance committee. We are very pleased that the project aligns with the town's sustainability goals and that the building is net zero ready, with the Concord Municipal Light Plant intending to bring solar generation to the project, with planning now underway in earnest. The Concord School Committee enthusiastically and unanimously recommends your affirmative action. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Booth. I wonder, Jason or Chris, could you put the motion back up on the screen for us? I've been asked to read a statement from the Tax Relief Committee. And this was submitted by Virginia McIntyre of 26 Simon Willard Road, who is speaking on behalf of the Tax Relief Committee. Our Town Tax Relief Committee, created in 2010, helps Concordians who struggle with the costs of remaining in town, and especially paying increasing real estate taxes. Our tax relief program is means-tested, administered confidentially by the Hugh Cargill Trust Committee, and is separate from the Senior Tax Relief Program passed several years ago by town meeting. Over the years, hundreds of Concordians have been helped, and over the years, a stalwart group of generous donors have funded this important work. Our committee supports the building of the new middle school, and appreciating that this capital project will have a significant impact on town taxes and will likely increase the number of families who seek assistance in paying them, our committee broadened our appeal for contributions this year. A townwide mailing in December has already added more than 200 new contributors, some commenting that they never knew this program existed and were happy to help. And the contributions have ranged from $25 to $20,000. Of course, not everyone is in a position to contribute to this fund, but to those who support the building of a new middle school and are in a position to help others for whom a tax increase will occasion hard choices about remaining in the town they love, we ask, if you haven't contributed already, please send a check to the townhouse and note Tax Relief Committee on the memo line. These funds will help your neighbors who support our schools but fear the consequences of tonight's vote on their ability to remain in Concord. And to those donors, new and old, who've stepped up to help already, we say thank you. It takes a village to raise our children, pay for our excellent schools, and make sure none of us gets left behind. We'll now open the floor for deliberation. Speakers from the floor will have 1 minute for a question or a comment. And the time will be tracked on the screen in a timer that you'll see up there. There are microphones in all 4 areas of the meeting. For the parking lot, the microphone is immediately outside the entrance to the cafeteria under the tent. And inside, the chair of our Board of Health recommends that speakers do keep a few feet from each other when queuing, and that speakers keep their masks on while speaking. And I will remind everyone to please state your name and address when you approach the microphone. I see no speakers in the gymnasium. I see 1 speaker approaching the microphone here in the gymnasium. Microphone number 1, please.
Hi, Wendy Ravelli, 42 Bow Street.
Ms. Ravelli.
Chair of the Concord Light Board, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Light Board.
Thank you.
CMLP is fully in support of leading the solar design and installation at the new CMS building. The installation of solar is aligned with the light plant's obligation to supply clean electricity under Concord's energy goals, which aim to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve the community's resilience to the impact of climate change. CMLP has hired a design firm to develop a preliminary plan for solar installation at the CMS building, but detailed designs for the installation will now begin once funding the school project is confirmed at town meeting and approved by a vote at the polls on February 3rd. The final design will include consideration for impact on CMLP's transmission and distribution infrastructure, and is expected to include battery storage, rooftop, and canopy solar. Assuming the school project is approved, the solar design will be aligned with the timeline of the school building's detailed design construction. The overall cost and funding of the project is contingent on the final design and the CML board will evaluate the financial models available as the design process progresses, with the goal of ensuring solar is installed at the best price for our ratepayers. The community is an integral part of this process, and we welcome citizen participation in our monthly meetings where project status and decision will be discussed.
Thank you, Ms. Ravelli. There was someone in the auditorium, but I don't see them anymore. We'll go to microphone number 2 in the gymnasium.
Madam Moderator, Emily Wheeler, 34 Everett Street.
Ms. Wheeler.
I'm the clerk of the League of Women Voters of Concord, Carlisle, speaking on behalf of the League. The League urges affirmative action on Article 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the auditorium where I see a speaker waiting.
Go ahead.
My name is Nate Hubbard Nelson.
Speak more closely into the microphone, please.
My name is Nathaniel Hubbard Nelson. I am currently a student at Concord Carlisle High School, and I have chosen to speak because I feel underrepresented. Every single person who has spoken is decades older than me, and none of them have been to Concord Middle School recently as a student. I went to CMS from 2015 to 2018, and this is my perspective on the issue. I did not enjoy my experience at Concord Middle School, but this was not due to the building. This was due to other issues in the middle school that caused me to go to a private high school for the first 2 years of my high school before I transferred here. The budget is absurd, $103 million. I know I sound like Dr. Evil here, but that's $103 million. They spent $100 million on this high school, which has 1.8 times the number of students as Concord Middle School. And I think $103 million is an absurd amount of money to be spending on this. There are a lot of other issues with Concord Middle School that lie within the teaching and administrative staff. The food when I went there was nearly inedible, and I think the building problems take a backseat to those other issues.
Thank you. I do not see any speakers in the gymnasium. Ms. Kaufman, do we have any speakers outside?
We have no speakers approaching the microphone.
Okay, we have one speaker approaching the microphone outside. No, we have no one.
We have no.
We have no one. Okay, thank you. Mr. Lawson, do we have any speakers in the cafeteria?
I see no speakers, Madam Moderator, but I would remind the people sitting outside of the area that if they choose to vote, they should move into the assigned area.
And that is a timely suggestion, Mr. Lawson, because seeing no speakers here, it does appear that we're ready for a vote. Now, the way we're going to do this is we're going to vote by a show of voting slips inside, but outside, the tellers are going to count the votes of the people participating from parked cars. So I would ask everyone to just stay where they are for just a moment to give the tellers outside an opportunity to do their job. Okay, so all those in favor, please raise your voting slips. Okay. Thank you. We've taken note of that, and Ms. Kaufman will let us know when she is able how things are going out in the parking lot. Alice, are they counting out there? Alice, you let us know when they think they're ready for us to ask for all those opposed.
Ready for no votes, but it passes by like a huge margin. It passes by a huge margin. So we're roughly okay.
All right, okay, we're ready for the other vote then.
Yes.
Okay, would all those opposed please raise your ballot? You have 99 voters checked in out there.
The tellers are counting the nay votes.
Okay. Okay, I think I just got one.
I have about,
Okay. Total.
That was at 7:29 or 4:31, and they stopped giving out ballots about 20 minutes ago, and they had 99.
Is this the total with that many outside?
That was at 7:20.
I don't add these together.
No, but there may be, that number may have increased. I can get a count. Let me see if I can get a count.
So folks, at 7:29, we had 431 voters checked in with 99 of them in their cars. How's it going out there, Alice?
I think I'm gonna run out to the parking lot. I don't see the teller running back yet. I'll be out of communication for a few minutes.
Okay. Parking lot tellers are doing a thorough job, and they'll be right with us. That's Assistant Moderator Kaufman there, going to check on the tellers.
Carmen.
Yes, yes.
We have 10 no votes and overwhelmingly supported by the rest.
Very good, thank you. And Mr. Lawson, you have a comfortable over 2/3 margin in the cafeteria?
Yes, by more than 2/3.
Thank you. And Ms. Flood, in the auditorium, you have a comfortable margin of more than 2/3 as well?
Yes, we do, close to 90% in favor.
The motion carries by well more than 2/3, and I do so declare. Thank you all for bearing with this COVID, the circus. And I will entertain a motion to adjourn. I see a motion, and is there a second? There is. All those in favor? Brilliant. Have a lovely evening.